Welcome, Taurus, to your Mars into Taurus 6-week forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. From May the 18th for nearly 6 weeks, Mars, the planet of passion and action, powers its way through your zodiac sign. We can talk about Mars in Taurus generally, but what would this particular visit bring? At the exact moment Mars arrives, the event chart tells us a lot. All the other planetary influences feeding in, including your ruler Venus, which is going to be influential. I'm also going to share with you two upcoming influences. One could be quite challenging, but one could be absolutely fantastic. By the end of the video, you'll have a clearer understanding of what's upcoming in terms of your energy, work, relationships, or finances. I'm astrologer Patrick Arundel. A very warm welcome. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive, but please also click or tap the bell notification symbol. There's Mars at 0 degrees in your sign. So what is Mars in Taurus like? Well, it's very determined. Mars is very much to do with our identity. So in your sign, it's going to give you a boost. It's going to give you more sense of self, but it's also going to give you a shot of celestial caffeine. You're going to feel more alive. And of course, this is coming on the back of last week's super new moon in your sign. So it's fortifying and encouraging you to have confidence to take action, but around the things you're really excited and passionate about. What's not to like? But let's just have a brief retrospect of Mars moving through Aries. It arrived on April the 9th, and then through to the 20th was in your 12th house, but also connecting to the dreamy energies of Neptune and the restrictive vibe of Saturn. So through that first 2/3 of April, you may have actually felt quite drained, quite challenged, and at times a little bit demotivated. Once the sun moved into your sign on the 20th of April, that did lift things, but Mars in the 12th house has a tendency to rake up old issues, and you may have found yourself feeling really angry about something very much from your past. It may have been around a relationship, it could have been around an accident, it may have been around someone's passing. But Mars moving into your sign brings you very much into the present. But the ironic thing, Taurus, is because Mars is about identity through its rulership of Aries, you can see it's just separated from Chiron. Now, Chiron's been in your 12th house since February 2019, and that in itself is quite a complex influence. And of course, you still do have Saturn and Neptune, in the case of Saturn for the next 2 years, Neptune for around about the next 12. They're still in that very psychological sector where Mars has just passed over Chiron. But if you did find yourself over the last few days coming to terms a little bit from about something that was painful, that's a very good thing. And you were using that Mars energy in a really constructive way. But the other exciting thing to tell you is about your ruler. If we look at Venus, it is coming to the end of its journey in the vivacious Gemini, but it is in a conjunction with the moon. That's one of the most lovely aspects in astrology. Now, we could argue the moon in Gemini is in Peregrine. It's not the best place for the moon to be an air sign. It doesn't connect to the emotion of a situation as well as an earth or water sign. But it's still quite bubbly, and that Venus position is so late. It's in a exact sextile with Mars that becomes, well, peaks the day after Mars moves into Taurus, so on the 19th of May. So your words, which are very much to do with the third house, Venus is about relating, but it's also about value and our sense of worth and also money. Linked back to Mars suggests, for example, if you really like someone, the chances are, if you have the confidence to go for it, particularly this coming week, something very good can transpire. But even if it doesn't happen straight away, remember this event chart is still providing a backdrop for those next 6 weeks. And that's why just focusing on Mars moving into Taurus just isn't enough. For example, last year when Jupiter moved into Cancer, lots of videos saying that this was amazing because Jupiter was in her exaltation, not taking into account that Saturn, the planet of limitation, was in a square with Jupiter. So a lot of people, particularly Cancer people, are saying, leaving messages, I was told that it was going to be an amazing year. It hasn't been. Well, that's what the event chart helps us to understand. So the backdrop for this next 6 weeks is really encouraging for you personally. Moreover, Mercury, the planet of communication, but also of business, is in the second house of this event chart, which has a Taurus echo. So it's very much about the value. And it's in a conjunction with Uranus, the planet of innovation. But particularly, Mercury is forging a perfect link to Neptune in that very healing, nurturing part of your chart, but a fantastic link also to Pluto in the most elevated part of your chart. So very much to do with work, contracts, your connection to the world at large, your ambitions. All of these are going to be transformed through to 2044 for you. But this particular event sees Mars give you a lot more conviction. You move into the moment. Yes, the new moon was really helping because it was a very good one. It was conjunct Mercury and in a sextile to Jupiter. But now Mars brings a greater sense of confidence. You construct your stuff in a more self-assured way. And the other thing that's really fabulous about this is you can feel more alluring because with Mars, Neptune, Saturn, and Chiron all in the 12th house, and before that, the Sun, there may have been times over the last month or so when you have had doubts about how attractive you were or how much quality you had in situations. But now you can really take center stage. And one of the things Mars in our own sign helps us to do is have a firmer grip on our life direction. We become less concerned about what other people think. We're more single-minded. And that's where Mars in Taurus comes in spades, because it can give you a greater sense of certainty. There is that part of your nature when push comes to shove, where you can dig your heels in and be very stubborn. Well, Mars is going to give you more strength not to bend into the will of other people. Now, of course, there are times when we do need to flex. And one of those times is going to be coming towards the end of May, because we have Mars move forwards and come into a square with Pluto. And it's one of astrology's most challenging influences, to be honest, Taurus. And it's going to be important for you that on the 26th of May in particular, but really from around about the 22nd through to the end of the month, if you do find yourself discussing a contractual matter, you could have a massive battle of wills. And because you're a fixed sign, your nature is to be very consistent. But if you encounter someone who also is very convinced that they are right, it can create a clash. It could be a clash of personalities. It may be that rightly you feel that someone's trying to have power over you. Pluto, very much about power. For example, a line manager, a customer, someone's not playing fair and they're using leverage to get what they want from the situation. It could really get your rankles up, quite understandably. But it is going to be very important that you just weigh up whether the disruption of pushing back too hard is really worth it, because you do have that big desire for personal security. And Pluto in Aquarius is inevitably about change and inevitably about things like technology. So if there's something going on in the world that's affecting us all, it's a systematic transformation, how much is pushing back really worth it? So just watch through those last 10 days of May that you don't end up in a battle of wills that no one really wins. And in fact, it might be better just to flex early in the process, drop your shoulder, do a body swerve, and let your opponent just rush past. However, when we get to the end of June, there is a sensational link between Mars and Jupiter. Jupiter's going to redeem itself after that early troubled start. when it moved into Cancer last June the 9th. In the early part of June this year, it's going to be merging with your ruler Venus. And there's going to be the potential for a magical connection or a magical deal around about the 8th or 9th of June. But then towards the end of the month, as Mars moves forwards, coming to the end of its journey in the sign of Taurus, it forges a sextile to Jupiter, coming to the end of its time in Cancer. And Mars and Jupiter, when they're together, can make us feel invincible. And if you have a message that you're really invested in and you're excited about, a project or an idea, or there's someone you really fancy and it's cooking on gas, it could be moving at pace and be really exhilarating too. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas of energy, work, relationships, and finances next. But I'd just like to tell you about my personal horoscope reports. I've slashed the price. It's now 3 for the price of 1. The one you pay for is your life roadmap report, which helps us to understand the patterns that play out in our life so far, have a more intimate understanding of them, and make better decisions future forwards. 3, your 12 months transit forecast, and also your draconic soul karmic analysis. As long as you don't have the North Node very late in Pisces or early in Aries, your draconic chart can be hugely different to your natal chart. It's a different way at looking at the roots of our being. The natal chart very much the flower of our journey, the flowering of the journey in this lifetime. But I feel that understanding birth time astrology, if you know it, if you don't, please choose the solar option, really gives us so much more understanding of how to navigate this life. If you've yet to watch your monthly forecast for May, that's on the screen. Your Uranus 78-year solar return, Cazimi, on the screen. Like to work with me one-to-one, please check out my testimonials below. A pleasure. And if you've yet to take advantage of my free daily written horoscope, fire to your device each morning for your free early day celestial pit stop, please see below to sign up for that too. So to summarize, when it comes to your financial but also professional situation, if you're prepared to flex, but also prepared to do things a bit fresh and different, but most of all, show conviction about your personal worth and value, you can really soar through these next 6 weeks. Also know that when it comes to your love life, your powers of seduction may seem a strong word, but certainly your sense of self are really going to be very strong, because obviously your sign is ruled by the sensual Venus, but Mars is very much about taking action. So the link between the two of them is ideal for communicating your message with conviction. So whether it's over the next week or over the next 6 weeks, if you encounter someone you really like, believe you can get to know them and can make it work. When it comes to your physical and emotional energy, there is the potential still for a little bit of a need to just tune out at times, because having Neptune, Saturn and Chiron in that 12th house. Now, Chiron's moving into your sign on the 19th of June for 3 months. I'm going to be doing a special soon, so watch out for that. So your energy still needs a little bit of nursing. So if you go for a spa day, have some therapeutic treatments, or just have a duvet day at times, despite the feisty energy of Mars in your sign, don't beat yourself up. And when it comes to neat romance, well, yes, I've already said if you want to take the initiative, that's all set, fair and dandy. But what about an ongoing relationship? Well, I think one of the things that you can do, particularly in the early part of June, is try to spoil your partner. And I think you can be someone who does really like to do that. Even if it's a small gesture, if it's thoughtful, it will really hit the mark through the first 10 days of June. Thank you so much for joining me. It's been a real pleasure being with you, and look forward to seeing you again soon.